Hi everybody, this is Laura Liebman in the English department at Reed College, and I'm here today with 4 tips on how to create better video lectures. Number 1 is there's no images, that's a podcast. To record a podcast if you're on a Mac, I suggest just using GarageBand. 1, select podcast and open it up, and then choose the gender of voice that seems most appropriate for you. After you've clicked on podcast, you want to turn off a couple of settings that are going to make it sound like there's this huge echo in your room. Second strategy is, okay, I do have images and I just don't want to memorize the whole thing. Well, here's the great news. Your students don't actually need you yipping in the corner by your images. Open up Quicktime, do a quick intro to your lecture where you just explain to your students, hello, here's who I am as a reminder, or on this day, this is what I'm going to be covering. Turn off that recording and open a new one, which is screen capture in QuickTime. Record your lecture, turn that off, and then record and exit where, again, you're just looking at the camera. So I'm sort of cheating in a way. I'm doing these ad-libs, introductions and conclusions, and then for the rest of it, they're seeing the images that appear on my screen. My third option is to use a teleprompter. If you have a little bit of money, you might want to buy something which is called the mini teleprompter. It just hooks onto the back of your screen. You use a smartphone. Then once I have it, I'm just putting it at the right speed, practice it, and I can click through my images just using the backwards and forwards button, right? And it looks like I'm looking at the camera, but actually I'm reading. You can also just make your own teleprompter. Here's a really easy way to do it. Just put your laptop on a stand or on a book and set up a camera behind it. The camera can be on a tripod or just prop it up on books and then position yourself in front of the camera. On the screen is going to be the text for my lecture, and I'm going to be reading it, and in order to keep it moving, I'm going to use some sort of clicker. Either I could use just a regular Bluetooth mouse and hold it in my hand just out of the screen, or there's Logitech, of course, has clickers that you can use for scrolling as well. The idea here is just to allow yourself to be able to look like you're looking at the camera when really you're looking at the scrolling through. My fourth strategy is, I'd really like to just record the beginning and the ending, but I don't really have enough images. BRoll to the rescue! What is the point of doing BRoll? Normally in lecture, I don't want to add extra images that have nothing to do with what I'm talking about because they distract from me speaking in person and people stop looking at me. But remember, they no longer have me to look at because I'm trying to fill that space so I can read my lecture. So now I'm using BRoll to provide some interest in the absence of an actual human being for somebody to watch. Here's an example of what I mean by BRoll. See if you can figure out where are actual images that are about the object as opposed to filler images that are found images.
My name is Johann Bosch van Rosenthal, and I advise buyers and sellers in the art market. My business has taken me to many special places around the world, and I've dealt with many beautiful works of art. But I could never have imagined the exceptional experience caused by a call from an elderly lady in 2019. She rang to ask if I could visit her to discuss the future of her collection. So I made the long trip to her remotely situated country house in Central Europe. There I met a charming, energetic woman in her 80s, surrounded by her dogs and cats.
Okay, so I hope that you notice that some of these absolutely just can't be Johann and the old lady, right? Like that some of these, like the dog and cat, surely are not hers. He didn't think at the time. He didn't know it was going to be important, so he didn't take BRoll. And I don't know if Johann memorized the whole thing or if he was reading a script. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're mesmerized by what he's doing with the visuals. So how can you use both static images like he did of the house in Amsterdam or of moving images of stock video in order to create that effect? The first and most obvious is maybe you want some content that actually is true to what you're talking about, just like he used pictures of the actual vase. And one of the best places to find that is Art Store. I am on Art Store, and notice I've already done some searching. Pretend that I'm going to do a lecture on a vase about Odysseus, or maybe I'm talking about Odysseus in a moment and I want an image of him. The benefit of going here as opposed to just a regular Google search is I'm getting higher quality images and I get a lot of background information so that I know what I'm using. What if I've downloaded some images from Art Store and I find them, but I want them to actually have more motion to them? The easiest way to do this is through iMovie. Now, iMovie allows me to have what is called a Ken Burns effect. And I'm going to show you how I did that here. After weeks of being held captive by mercenaries, Judith de Moreda stepped off the creaky deck of the French ship Santa Catarina in 1654 and onto the muddy streets of New Amsterdam. Relief washed over her like new rain. To be sure, the town was smaller, smellier, and less orderly than she was used to. Here is the actual book trailer itself. You can see that I've added in this Ken Burns effect, and I've showed where I want it to start and where I want it to end because I was talking about her going into New York. I started large and then went small. Also, I added some seagulls and some footsteps in order to give a little bit more of the atmosphere. Johan had stock video. Where do I get that? Here I am in Canva, which is one of my absolute favorite sites for finding stock images and stock video, even more important. So I'm doing it on the Parthenon. I'm going to go ahead and do a search in videos for the Parthenon. I have some great images that are of the Parthenon, but it allows me to have a little bit more organic movement. So maybe at the opening of my lecture, here I'm going to go ahead and put this in the background. And notice that it's got this horrible watermark, but if I scroll down here, it's going to tell me how I can remove that watermark. Not surprisingly, I could pay some money. But great news, if you save all the things that you want to buy for the right moment and do them all at once, you can try Canva Pro, which allows you to never pay for images, videos, and audio, and I can get it free for 30 days. So that's it. Those are my 4 big recommendations for how to create better lecture videos. I hope everybody has a great time creating some awesome videos this summer. See you later.